All right, so Championship Sunday is behind us, and we have one more game to go here to analyze for the NFL season on Proline TV. Greg DePalma along with Jim Feist. So, Jim, this championship game day, actually, if you think about it, there wasn't really a lot of, I don't know, like drama in a way. Yes, the championship game in the AFC was close. It was a great game, but there wasn't any like, oh, that was a terrible. Oh, I can't believe that just changed. That was the word. That referee should be fired, or the coach should be fired, or it's just something just dramatically. Now, of course, you're always going to get little things nitpick. We're going to go over those little nitpicky things here in a little bit. But it just wasn't real. It's like, oh, the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. The 2 number 1 seeds, one at home. It's just, it's just maybe it's just predictable based on what we've been talking about all year long. It's just these teams in the NFL are just not good enough to dethrone the Chiefs or even the number 1 seed in the NFC, the Eagles.
Well,
or the number 2 seed.
I kind of look at it a little bit differently. Washington was a pretender.
Yeah.
They had a good year. They had a good year, a remarkable year.
Exactly.
They have a ton of cap space. They're going to build themselves into a championship. Dallas is falling off. They have a leader that obviously doesn't care about winning anymore. Philadelphia is going to be tough, of course. So Washington, Philadelphia is going to dominate that division. When you look at the Chiefs, I mean, look at you talk about the Chiefs going forward. Look at the 4 coaches in that division. Pretty remarkable. You think about it. Peyton, Andy Reid, Harbaugh, and Pete Carroll. They all have something in common. They're champions, every one of them. That's
next year.
That's next year.
Yeah.
But now Kansas City played with their food all year long. They never won big. First time they scored 30 points was yesterday.
And what does that tell you?
It tells you that they manage their effort
because they didn't have to be great.
They how many one-score games did they win in the 13?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous, unbelievable. They thrive on pressure. They don't crack under pressure.
Nope. A really good team to bet on. That's for sure. Not to get points, but to Super Bowl betting
because they're not going to win by a lot.
And winning playoff games. Yes. Very good team.
That's why they're a money line bet. That's you just keep betting them on the money line and roll it over. There was a lot of money around the country on the Bills yesterday. There were actually some books in New York, which is their home state, that went to the Bills favored.
Well, they weren't watching our show.
Well,
what was that? 1 for 16, and
not everybody pays attention to our show.
1 for 6. That's just a shame because they would have saved their money. Matter of fact, they would have made money because once again, the numbers they don't lie.
I mean, the Bills fumbled the ball 4 or 5 times. They recovered every one of them. That was remarkable. That was the first turnover the Kansas City had in 9 games. When that one play, they're just good. They're just good. Now, when you look at the stats of that game, it was dead even, except for the potential turnovers that didn't turn into turnovers by Buffalo. I mean, they recovered them all. But the one thing, and I don't know if I mentioned it on this podcast last week or another one, the one thing about Spagnuolo is people don't really realize the true strength of that Kansas City team is Andy Reid and Spagnuolo. Spags brings blitzes throughout the whole game at different times. However, there are moments where he switches up the type of blitz he uses, and the other side has no idea when it's coming. And he did it again yesterday, bringing guys that never blitz at the key moment, and they got to Allen where he had to throw up that Hail Mary that was never even, it wasn't even close. Because he's such a good coordinator. He's definitely the best defensive coordinator in the business. It was his defensive play calling last year in the Super Bowl that won that. But Andy is a great coach, great offensive play caller. Mahomes is a tremendous talent. Kelsey's probably going to retire. Andy Reid might also retire.
Well, we keep hearing that.
Well,
we've heard that the last 2 off seasons.
He is 66 years old. He has 13 grandchildren.
That's what we hear every off season.
Well, they're going to retire at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually it'll happen.
It would make sense to win a 3rd Super Bowl now and do something no one's ever done. Then why not? Why come back and then lose and go out that way? Then you're going to be like, well, I don't want to go out and lose. And then you'll be chasing another Super Bowl win. You'll be coaching for another 3 or 4 years. So win a 3rd one and go out in the sunset.
If I'm him and I win this one, I quit. I'm done.
That makes a lot of sense. Same thing for Kelsey.
And I think Kelsey will do the same thing.
Yeah. And by the way, that right there, that just shows you, I think, what a great quarterback Josh Allen has turned into. He doesn't have Andy Reid. He doesn't have his Travis Kelce. He doesn't even have Xavier Worthy or any of those really good players to throw to. He's got a bunch of just average. I mean, Mac Hollins. Are you freaking kidding me? Mac freaking Hollins. I mean, that's who he's throwing touchdown passes to in the AFC Championship game. He came that close to winning it.
I'm a big Josh Allen fan. I think he's extremely talented. I've never been a big McDermott head coach. The head coaches. I've never been a lot
of Bills fans are backing up that statement.
He's not terrible. He's a good coach, obviously, but it's hard to find great. Think of it. There's 32 coaches in the league, head coaches. How many are great? Very, very, very few.
See, this is the thing. We're gonna have this conversation in about 10 years or 5 years. Well, we won't have this conversation necessarily because Andy Reid is not going to continue on and Patrick Mahomes is going to be somewhere else. But that's the thing that we said with Belichick and Brady once kind of went apart for a year or two. Oh, Belichick, is he that great or is it Brady? And it's the two of them together. They're both great and it made him super great. And that's what's going on with Reid and Mahomes. They're very good at what they do and you put them together and it makes them super great, especially with Spagnuolo. I mean, that's even something that's just triple great.
But you got to go back with Andy Reid. Go back a little further. He's going to be playing he was the winningest coach in Philadelphia in their history.
Sure, but he never won a Super Bowl.
But
that's why he took them out of there.
He did take a lot of those teams to championship games.
Sure he did, just like Marv Levy.
Yeah.
Marv Levy went to 3 straight.
That doesn't make him a bad coach.
Nope.
That makes him a great coach that just didn't get over the hump.
Well, Eagle fans would never call Andy Reid a great coach.
There's a lot of players that went up against Michael Jordan and couldn't win. There was a lot of players that went up against Tom Brady and couldn't win. You just play in the wrong era. Again, you just don't get over the top. There can only be one winner every year. So,
that doesn't make them great, though. That makes them very good.
I think it makes them great. I don't think winning championships makes you great.
Well, that makes it a very small amount, though. You got your Dan Marinos and those types of players that have never. That's a very small group of players that I'm willing to call great that have never won a Super Bowl.
It's also not a one-man game. I mean,
of course.
Philadelphia is coming into this game. Are you going to tell me that Jalen Hurts is great? I think he's very good.
No, he's
But
not
it's
great. No.
that offensive line and that defensive line and look at the wide receivers they have and the running. I mean, oh my God, Saquon Barkley, would he be great if he was playing on any other team? No,
Nope.
because I mean, this offensive line is huge. They're enormous. They're big and they're very talented. We're going to find out if anybody can really stop them from running the ball the way they do.
Well, I think Kansas City can. I know we'll have 2 weeks to go over it, but that's how you beat Philly. You stop Barkley. You can. If you limit Barkley to 80 yards, you're going to beat the Eagles. You just are. I mean, we've seen that this year. It's the proof's on the pudding. When Barkley gets stopped, the Eagles have issues. So I think that the Chiefs are a very good defense, and I can't see the Chiefs giving up 150 yards rushing to Saquon Barkley. I just can't see it.
Well, we only had 118 yesterday, but they got 55 points.
Well, when he made those runs, though, especially the first one, that pretty much set the tone. And Washington.
The Washington opens the game, 18 plays field goal. They get one play. 60-yard touchdown. I mean, oh my God.
And those turnovers were just so deadly. I mean, they kept coming back. And then every time they came back and they were one drive away from trying to make it even, turnover. They just kept, and you look at the score, and if you didn't watch the game, you would think, oh, that was a blowout. And fourth quarter, game was over. But that wasn't the case. They came back in the third quarter. I couldn't believe how they kept coming back. And they actually, on that Eckler fumble at midfield, I can't even believe they were in that spot with all the turnovers they had at that point. It looked like the Eagles were going to run them out of the building, and they could have scored and tied the game on that drive, and they fumbled it again, and then the Eagles scored, and that was it. They just, so many times you can come back.
You look at Washington going forward, I think they got like 90 million cap space. I mean, they are good coaching, good quarterback. Oh, yeah. I mean, they are going to be dangerous. You can pencil Dallas in about third or fourth in that division, the way they're being run.
Yeah, again, the NFL, it's only a certain group of teams are lucky enough to find not just their franchise quarterback, but the special franchise quarterback. And Washington's got it. And so, if you're a Washington fan, you're sitting pretty now for the next 10 or 15 years.
Now, you also said it, though. It's the marriage between the coach and the player that makes it work. You can have a great player in a deficient coach, or vice versa.
What do you think? What do you think about Quinn? Because we know I don't think Quinn's on the level, of course, of Andy Reid. So, do you think that Quinn do you think he's just one of those coaches where, all right, I could see Daniels winning maybe in 10 years and 15 years. If Quinn was his coach for 15 years, I could see him win a couple Super Bowls. But if he had a better head coach, maybe he could be like Andy Reid and Mahomes, and he could win.
It comes down to the offensive coordinator. You can have a great head coach, like for example, I mean, you can have a defensive head coach, but you need an offensive coordinator,
which they have right now.
Quinn is a defensive coach.
Yep.
But he has a good offensive coordinator.
Yep.
Who didn't do well at the head coaching job when he had it. But sometimes you raise to a level where you can't exceed, or you learn from it, and the next time you go back and maybe it works the second time around. I mean, Spags was a head coach, and he didn't work out, but his defensive head coaching skills are enormous.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out whether or not there's only one job available right now, and that's the Saints. And it's going to be interesting to see if Spags is up for that job or not. And if
I hope he doesn't take it. I don't want to see him take it.
Then he's going to be. I mean, sometimes coaches, especially what is he, close to 65 or something like that. Sometimes they're okay. You know what? Maybe if Andy Reid retires, like you're saying, which I believe is possible, then Spags is the head coach, isn't he?
The thing is, Greg, I think there's too much weight put on the head coach, just like there's too much weight put on a quarterback. It takes a team to win. And in order to have a good coaching staff that wins games, it's not only about the head coach. They should not be paying the money to the head coach in the disparity to the offensive and defensive coordinator like they do. It should be a little bit split up a little bit better, because these other coaches are the guys that make it work, and they don't get enough credit. And just like a good quarterback is not going to win if he doesn't have a good offensive line. He's just not going to win. And
Well,
it's
we're going to see that again if Andy Reid retires and Patrick Mahomes doesn't have Andy Reid, and let's say Steve Spagnuolo gets elevated as head coach, they're going to have to find
another defensive coordinator.
Well, Spags would coach the defense. There's no way he won't.
But you can't do both. You can't.
Yes, you can.
No one has done it well.
Well, Andy Reid has.
But he has the defensive coordinator. He doesn't need to worry about it.
Well, Bill Belichick did.
He had defensive coordinators as well.
No, Belichick ran that defense.
Okay, well, yeah. But who ran the offense?
Why can't you run the offense? Why can't you be a defensive coach and run the defense?
Greg, the head coach, like the CEO or president of a corporation, is all about delegation. You have to be able to delegate. You can't do all these jobs. It's not
Andy Reid is.
Huh?
Andy Reid is.
He's an offensive guy.
So why can't you do it on defense? What? I don't get the difference.
Well, there's different personalities. It's very difficult to have multiple jobs.
I'm not saying it isn't. I know it is. But I'm just saying that there's no way Steve Spagnuolo is going to get a head coaching job and go and relinquish.
Bill Belichick proved how good or bad he was when before and after Tom Brady was in his life. He didn't win before Brady, and he didn't win after Brady. As a matter of fact, he made some of the worst decisions. In drafting, he was a terrible drafter of talent. And
no question about that.
Then he named Matt Patricia his offensive coordinator. Give me a break. It was one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in football. Ever.
Okay.
Ever.
I don't know what we're getting into Bill Belichick slamming now, but okay.
Well, listen, he deserves it. Anybody that would put Patricia as offensive coordinator deserves it. I don't give a shit.
Okay.
Does he know football?
I don't think it's fair to. I don't think it's fair to compare Reid and Belichick's prior history, because Belichick was the coach of the Cleveland Browns for 3 years, and that was it. That was his job, and he went to the playoffs once. So I don't think that's if he would have been with the Browns for 10 years, that's
Marty
like
Schottenheimer Marty Schottenheimer coached at Cleveland, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He was very successful at both Cleveland and the Chargers.
So it is possible to win in Cleveland if you have a good coach.
No, that's what I'm saying. He did, but he made the playoffs 1 out of 3 years.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And it was his first job, too.
So my point is, if you're a good coach, you can win in Cleveland.
And I think if Belichick would have stayed there, he would have won in Cleveland. Now, he would not have won anywhere near the amount of – he may not have even ever won a Super Bowl. Who knows? But – I think the other thing is he had Robert Kraft. So at least he had an owner that was good enough to know when he had something good going on, because he actually was smart enough also to hire Bill Parcells before that. So that was a good hire. And that set things up that's the other thing. It set things up really nicely for Belichick.
What do you think about Pete Carroll going to the Raiders?
Great move by the Raiders, absolutely.
I thought so too.
They need stability.
A lot of stability.
Yeah.
A lot of stability there. Yeah.
And now they have to make sure, though, the trick is who is like Pete's assistant coach in waiting, because at some point you better have an idea that, all right, well, how long is Pete going to coach here? He's getting older.
Got a 3-year deal.
Yeah, we need to have some sort of an idea, Pete, that when you leave, I don't want to go back to pre-Pete. I need to know that there's someone there that you are teaching to be the head guy.
Well, I think Isn't the first problem is they need to build a team and like this year, the next he's got 3 years. I don't think he's going to worry about what's going to happen 4 years from now. He needs to worry about what he's going to do in the next 3 years. They need a quarterback. They need a good offensive line. They need to develop.
Well, again, but what I'm saying is that it's nice if he builds a team, but we've seen on every team, if you can build a team, but if you leave, well, where are the Raiders then? They're back to square one. Oh, I got to go find a head coach.
Greg, if he has a good offensive coordinator for the next couple of years, that whoever that person is going to end up getting a job as a head coach for another team, which is what happens everywhere.
No,
Detroit just lost their offensive and defensive head, coaches. So,
well, again, I'm not saying it's easy. If I'm a Raider fan, I love the fact that they hired Pete Carroll. But I'm not looking at this. Maybe if I was younger, I wouldn't be feeling this way because I've got 30 extra years to catch me. But if I'm a 56-year-old Raider fan, I'm like, all right, well, my time's running out. So what's after Pete Carroll? I mean, I don't want to, okay, it's nice. He's going to stabilize your organization, but he's going to leave. And then what? I want to have stability. I want to know that when he leaves, he's got a guy that's maybe his assistant head coach that he's teaching. And that's why I'm saying I think we both understand he's only going to be there for 3 or 4 years.
I have never looked at a team and said, "Oh, I wonder what this is going to be like in 3
because
years."
You've never been a fan of a team.
I'm worried about what's going to happen this year and this week.
Never been a fan of a team. That's the difference.
I've never been a fan of a team.
No.
I only care about who covers the spread.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all good.
Actually, I'm going to have the opportunity to talk to Hondo Carpenter, who does a great job covering the Raiders on his podcast on YouTube. I'm going to set that up. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll get the opportunity to chat with Hondo and go over, because Hondo was really excited about last year. He really thought that the Raiders were, after the way the season ended the year before, everything looked good. And Pierce came in and, it looked like they were getting somewhere, and then it all fell apart completely ridiculously this year. So I haven't talked to him all season. Can't wait for that interview. You can check it out over at the Ourlads YouTube channel. Of course, we put clips here on Proline TV as well. Don't forget to subscribe. This is a great time of year to subscribe, because even though the football season's over, we got a ton of content, sports content. Matter of fact, Jim and I are going to be talking some college hoops on Friday. We have our new show that's starting every Friday, where we're going to take a look at the action in college basketball as part of the show. Of course, we'll be talking about a few other things. But, are you starting to get into college basketball? I know you've been wagering on it for the past month or so.
Yes, but when you have multiple sports, it's much more difficult to dig into it as deeply as now. It's obviously going to take over because football season is down to one game. So yes, of course. And then, I'm also giving out hockey plays and NBA plays, and, and then right around the corner is baseball. And we also have tennis and golf that we deal with. So
Not
there's
tennis.
a lot of things to look at. Nothing is like the NFL or college football because it dominates. But college basketball does dominate, February and March especially.
That's it.
That those 2 months, it's really, the thing about it's like a Saturday, the problem with the Saturday is there's too many games to dig deep into each game like you can like on a Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
When there's less games. It's too many games piled on top of each other to really dig. So you make your numbers and you hope your numbers hold up. And that's about all you can do.
Well, at least there's more than enough games on Saturday for us to choose from. So we'll take a couple of games out of the 50 or so that you might like. And
50. There'll be 300 games on Saturday.
Yeah, okay. I was being generous. And then, of course, it's also a big year for the SEC. Not so much in football anymore, but basketball is looking pretty good for the SEC.
When you look at the Big Ten and it's really the Big 18, things have changed.
I can't even. Yeah, I mean, it's just even trying to think about 18 teams. It is crazy, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And we have look, it's 2 weeks, and I know everybody. Next week, we're going to. I'm sure on one of our playbook broadcasts, which we record every Wednesday, we're going to. I'm sure it's going to be not this Wednesday, but the next Wednesday after. We'll dive into maybe Super Bowl props, maybe get everybody's favorite Super Bowl props. I know you can wager a lot, Jim, and the more the better. But how much do you get into Super Bowl props at all, or quite a bit?
I had props yesterday. I mean, there's more props in the fewer the games, the more props you have per game, and there'll be 500 props, for the Super Bowl.
So you will go into the props.
I might have 20 props.
Okay. Very good. Do you have like any favorite type of props that you usually wager on?
Well, first of all, I look for prices. I want to get a price because, I'm not going to sit in there and lay prices on stuff because you want odds. You want to get something
plus
back for your money. Give me a 20 to 1 or a 15 to 1 or I mean, even if you grab an outside, one of the props that a lot of people don't like to bet, will the team score 3 consecutive times? Everybody wants to say no because hey, these two teams they're equal. One could dominate the other? Actually, teams mostly do score 3 consecutive times.
And you get plus on that.
It's just the flow of the game. Now, it used to be a better price because everybody would like to bet against it, but it happens so often now the prices are never too great. But it's still a positive bet.
Do you already know who you're taking for the Super Bowl?
Well, my natural tendency is to bet on the best coaches, best quarterback.
Well, it's over.
This is a little bit of an issue this year because you have a very unusual style of football being played by Philadelphia that is not normal. So I'm going to have to focus very deeply on Kansas City's ability to stop the run.
He's taking
because that is not the norm. And especially, we've had a couple of years ago, they were telling don't pay running backs. Well, the best teams generally right now have best running backs and best running game. And they are first or second best running team in football, which is hard to, you don't usually run into a team that can do that. So, and you got to remember too, these two teams played 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, and it was a very close game. There's not that much different. You have the same players. A lot of the same players are still there. The same coaches are still there.
Oh, and I'm sure it's going to be a very close game again.
And well, look at the line. 1.5, 2.
And the thing is that, as you said before, though, about the Chiefs, and this is the reason why the Chiefs, I get everything you're saying about Philadelphia, and that's going to be talked about for the next 2 weeks. And look, if they weren't respected, the line wouldn't be the way that it is. But when you have a game that's kind of even almost, I'm sorry, but I don't know how anybody could take the Eagles over the Chiefs. I just don't know. Well, in other words, how do you not take the Chiefs? How do you do that? I don't know how you. Maybe younger people don't get it yet, but when you get old and you've been to song and dance, it's like going against the Patriots in a big game with Tom Brady. It's like, does he lose sometimes? Yes. But if you keep taking them in every big game all the time, you're going to win 80, 90% of the time. And then that's what you got to do with the Chiefs.
Remember something. Yesterday's game was played in Kansas City. Home crowd predominantly. Obviously those tickets are mostly Kansas City people, unless they sold them at some big prices. And the game was down to the wire. And if it wasn't for Buffalo making some critical mistakes and turning, they fumbled the ball 4 or 5 times and got them all back. That could have been that if they didn't recover all those fumbles, it could have easily been a much bigger margin. But it came down to a couple of key plays by offense and defense that were and a close call by referees on that one play.
Chiefs.
And it yes, they're beatable. Everybody's beatable. And
first of all, I think Buffalo is better than Philly. So that really didn't change my mind.
Buffalo is not better than Philadelphia. I'm sorry. They're not.
Then I guess you're going to take the Eagles.
No, I'm not going to. No. See, now, that's not how you do things.
Oh.
You got to look at the whole picture.
Okay.
Buffalo would not have been able to stand up against Philadelphia's running game because Buffalo does not have that type of a defense. They would not have been able to hold up against Philadelphia's run game. However, the Kansas City Chiefs can. So there's your matchup issue. It's about matchups. And it's okay, if you're going to get down to the end, and this is where it comes down to, it's the last 2 minutes of the game and it's tied 29-29. And who do you want to make the decisions of what happens? It's going to be Kansas City. So that's the edge, and that's why they're favored. They're favored because they're the champions, and they're favored because they have the better coaches, and they have a proven winner at quarterback. They're the favorite because of those reasons. Now, yesterday in New York, then I see some numbers all over the country. There was so much money on Buffalo. Buffalo went to the favorite in that game.
Betting with your heart, not a good thing.
Exactly. However, it wasn't that far out of range that they could have won the game.
But, see, this is the reason why I think betting or analyzing the Chiefs the way we do right now is completely different than another situation that we would normally analyze two teams in the Super Bowl or in big playoff games. Because, and this year is a great example of how the Chiefs just kept finding ways to win. I think we can tend to over analyze when we're talking about this Chiefs team. They're the best team. They won back-to-back Super Bowls. They're in a third. They're all in this situation for a reason, not fluky, because they just win every big game. And they have yet to lose one since they've been on this run. And that's it. I don't need to go over matchups
including the game against Philadelphia 2 years ago.
That's right. Yep. And it wasn't like, again, was Philadelphia just as good? Yeah. Was San Francisco just as good last year? Yeah. It doesn't matter. They're just going to find a way to win because they have great players at those spots that you just talked about, coaching, quarterback. And when you walk onto the field in all these big games with the best head coach and the best quarterback, you're going to win them. And again, look, they're going to lose eventually. We know that. But maybe they won't. Maybe they win this game, as we said before, and then Andy Reid retires, and he doesn't allow the opportunity for someone to eventually stop this. Because if he just keeps doing it, eventually they'll lose at some point. Eventually, because that was the thing about yesterday's game with Buffalo. The Bills finally had their chance. They had the ball in their hands late in the game. They're down 3. They just marched down the field to drive before to score a touchdown to tie it. If you do the same thing here, you're going to take the lead, even though I'm sure if they left time on the clock, they would have lost anyway. But they couldn't even get past midfield. So, but that's because the Chiefs also have a defense. Because even when you need to rely on the defense, Steve Spagnuolo is a great coordinator, and it makes it very difficult to beat this team. So
it really comes down to it. It's a game of inches, and it's really, and that's why you see the line the Chiefs are 1.5, 2, and you're never going to see 3 on this game.
No.
No, you're not.
And you got to jump on the money line. I mean, you'd be crazy to allow yourself to have any point spread with the Chiefs this year.
Well, let me tell you,
if it's 2 points, they're going to win by 1.
Let me give you a reason why it's even more important with the playoff rules. First of all, we know the game is not going to end in a tie. We know the overtime rules are that both teams have to get a possession, no matter what happens. So if Team A gets a touchdown, Team B gets the ball. It's not like the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
So
just like last year. Yeah.
That means where Team B, who's now down 7-0 in the overtime, gets the ball. And if they do score a touchdown, it's very likely they're going to go for 2, which means that a 1-point win is much more likely to happen in the Super Bowl or the playoffs than it would be in the normal regular season game. Therefore, if you're laying 1.5 or 2, you're out of your mind. You can take 1.5 or 2 if you want to, but if you're laying 1.5 or 2, you better be playing the money line.
Especially with this rendition of the Chiefs, who have just repeatedly been screwing gamblers this year.
They never win by much.
Yeah. So don't do it. Don't do it. Save that little VIG money. And I mean, don't save it. Spend on the VIG money this time around. If you usually save on it, this is the time to just, whatever they ask for it, just do it. Add the extra $50 or $200, depending on how much you weigh, or $1,000. I don't know how much you wager. Everybody wagers a lot. So, we'll see. But it's, again, it's going to be 2 weeks of back and forth. I don't anticipate. What do you think the final line is going to end up?
I think it'll be 1.5 or 2. And
so you don't think it's going to move very much at all?
Not at all. And I think
any chance that the line comes back to the Eagles?
I don't believe so. Not unless there's an injury in practice over the next 2 weeks. No, I do not. No. But I do think it's going to be a war. It's going to be a lot of points. A lot of points. A lot of points. It's already a very big line, 49-50. They're going to score a lot of points.
That seems like a good over. I'm not a total guy, but that doesn't it? Seem like a good over?
I am a total guy, and there's no way I'm betting it under.
Yeah, there you go. So we've got a week and a half more of this. We'll be back on Wednesday on Playbook ATS podcast, Mark Lawrence and the gang. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about what we talked here today. We'll get everybody else's take, and we'll talk a little bit of college basketball. And then that's it for now. Because as Jim said, we're still a little bit away, though, from throwing some baseball into our Playbook weekly show. But that's also coming real soon. We've got.
I'd like to say, who the hell's going to beat the Dodgers? I mean, they just have like unlimited players. I mean,
it's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing for baseball. It just is. It's just everybody knows it. You can talk to women who if they see the movie Moneyball and they don't know nothing about sports, they can watch the movie Moneyball and get how it's an unfair sport. Women. And if women who don't follow baseball can just watch that movie and get that baseball is an unfair sport, what do you think we think about it? So I just can't believe all this time that they've had salary caps in every other sport, and baseball just continues to just nah. They love it. They love that the Dodgers and the Yankees are winning every year. They love it.
Well, first of all, baseball, dominates sports in the summer because there's really nothing else going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so that helps them. But I mean, talk about a mismanaged sport. And I'm going to just throw it out there. The NBA is a horrible product.
Oh, that too.
Horrible product. Where the WNBA, which I know you don't even want to talk about, is a very good product. Why? No load management. They play hard. They don't play a lot of games, but they play hard. They play to win. In the NBA, I mean, how many games has Embiid played this year? I mean, how much money do you need to pay him to make him play? I mean, my God, it's the worst managed sport I've ever seen. It's horrible.
Isn't Jimmy Butler going through a little deal now with the Heat?
Oh, these divas that are making 40, 50 million a year. And
that's not enough for him.
Happy. You can't make any of these people happy. They just want to be unhappy about something.
Because they feel like.
Now, I will say this. They are beatable sports betting wise because there's angles you can play and do that. We do that all the time. But it's a horrible product.
Yeah.
Horrible.
It's a shame.
Imagine you have 3 or 4 kids and they want to go see a game. You pay the money, you pay your tickets, you go to the game, and 3 or 4 of your players are not even playing. Come on. And nobody does anything about it. To me, it's horrible. If I was in Congress or the Senate, I'd fire the whole league. It's horrible. But the good thing is about a better, I can win money betting it. So I do that. But it's a bad product. Bad product.
If you're into caring more about making money off basketball than watching it, well, then that's why you need to check out Jim's. Actually, all you have to do is we have the links in the description, and you could just go to you could just go to jimfeist.com, right, Jim?
Yep, we're there. We have games. We got plays.
And so that's going to wrap it up. We're going to talk more about that one more job opening. Maybe we'll talk about it on Wednesday if it's finally. I don't know who's going to get the job in New Orleans.
I'd like to bring up one thing. Jerry Jones, who I love to pick on. I mean, the guy's got a lot of money, got the most expensive franchise in the league and everything, all that stuff. Does this guy even want to win anymore? Does he care? I mean, he blew the team up when he fired Jimmy Johnson years ago. They haven't done shit since. Okay, except they win a lot of regular season games last year. Of course, they didn't do any of that either. But I mean, come on with this coaching hire stuff. What's he doing? Does he even care? Does he care that the product he's putting on? It's horrible what he's doing.
I just don't understand why he didn't bring back McCarthy. I just doesn't make. I don't understand it if you went and got Deion Sanders or you got some named coach. All right, but why would you let Mike McCarthy go for his assistant coach? That doesn't make any sense. Who has no head coaching experience? I don't understand it. There's something going on that we don't know.
I think Jerry just said, hell, I've tried to win all these years and I failed at it. I'm just not going to try to win anymore. Maybe that's what I don't know.
Well, he still thinks that, again, he thinks like a businessman and he still believes that he's doing a good job because the Cowboys are the hottest selling franchise in sports.
Well, they are. He has a lot of money and they are a big ticket, man. Yep. I'll tell you, but eventually that'll wear out too.
You would think, but at this point, it hasn't happened yet.
I want to see them beat Philadelphia and Washington in their own division next year.
Yeah, I don't know
that's
going to
happen.
Yeah, probably not.
Right.
Anyway, Jim, appreciate your time as always, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
I'll be there. Take care.